got to start with that strong sense of self. Here's what I want, and I'm willing to work. And this is what motivates me. And this is what I want in life. And I'm going to go for it. There's got to be that element of motivation to make you even want to achieve a goal other than to please someone else.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Staci Neustadt. I am a speech language pathologist and the CEO at Making Sense of Autism, and I'm a student of Susan.
And I'm Susan Golubock. I am a now retired occupational therapist who has worked many, many years after I discovered even my own autism with other autistic individuals. I founded Making Sense of Autism because of my passion to not only understand my brain and how it worked differently, but to try to explain what I've learned to other people so that they're more understanding and therefore more accepting and more accommodating to autistic individuals.
So, our goal is to help you provide the right support without trying to fix autism, but by understanding it. So, whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or just someone who wants to learn, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe and join us every week. We talk about a new topic. One thing I see pop up everywhere is with professionals, speech therapists, occupational therapists, sometimes even psychologists, is how to assess autistic individuals in an affirming way. Like I know as a speech therapist, I can give them the CASL, the comprehensive assessment of spoken language. But again, it shows their deficits. It gives them a low score. How I usually do it is I look at the different types of assessments and what they had, how did their brain had to work for those assessments. So like if it was one of the subtests where they get choices of what to choose from and they do really good on that one versus like the open-ended subtest, I can see like, oh yeah, they do better with choices. So I don't even look at their scores necessarily of like how they do. It's more how their brain works. So we see that need for an assessment form that is neuroaffirming, but really looks at how an individual's brain works. So I know you, Sue, have developed even like a hierarchy of skills. And at that foundation is that self-awareness, that self-acceptance, that agency. And that's kind of where that observation or that assessment kind of starts. So tell me more about like, why does it start there? I totally agree with you now that you've explained it to me and I've seen it myself, but why would we, it's as speech therapists, as occupational therapists, why do we start with self-awareness?
It's where most infants start. They always start by exploring their own bodies. They create sounds just to hear themselves make sounds. Then they compare what they're figuring out about themselves to other people. Oh, mama makes sounds too. What are the sounds she makes? That's interesting. Can I make that one? Now we're starting to compare self with others. But that distinction between self and others is just a natural, normal. The whole purpose is I am an individual, but I'm also part of this community. Um, it's the foundation for social interaction and communication, and that is the what they consider the primary area in which autistics are different than non-autistics is social communication. It seems to be the area in which we are enough different that they classify it as a disorder. So therefore, I think we need to start with how does the autistic individual see themselves? Do they see themselves as an individual, like every other individual? They have their own needs and wants, and they attempt to either get those needs themselves or seek it from other sources. Um, uh, but also, I think it's important to realize that, do they see their own strengths? Or do they see themselves only their strengths through the eyes of others? In which, if others don't see their strengths, they think they don't have any. Because now they're adopting other people's perceptions as their own, which means they can't distinguish between what is me and what is other. And this leads to, you have to have that sense of individual within a community. But if you think, no, I am merely an attachment to this community, and therefore, in order to function, I have to do whatever this community demands of me. And this leads to abuse, being taken advantage of. That's not going to enable the individual to grow up to be a functional individual within their community. So again, this is why, and how can they communicate to express their own needs? This is how I grew up. I gave up all sense of self. I liked the self I was when I was smaller, but I never got feedback from anyone else that they even saw that person, that they even recognized or acknowledged that person. They would only acknowledge when I acted like everyone else, because they thought I wanted to be like everyone else. I didn't want to feel different. So they didn't treat me as if it was not they were abusing me. They just didn't treat me as if I were different, even though I knew I was. So I gave up that sense of self that nobody could see, and thought I had no choice but to pretend to be what other people wanted and expected me to be. So for 50 years, I had no sense of self. So how could I communicate? Like my husband asked me, I want to do something you want. What do you want? I literally didn't understand what the word want meant. I mean, I had no wants. I gave up those things. I did what anybody else told me to do. So that's why it's so essential.
It is. It's that foundation. So I notice it in therapy when, it's so important to me that the individuals I'm working with know what skill we're working on, because one needs to be a skill they want to work on. And then they need to have that self-awareness of, oh yeah, this is what I'm working on. And it's so cool. I had one client in his 20s who had fairly good self-awareness, but I saw it improve so much when we worked on problem solving. And he realized, like, oh yeah, this is kind of hard for me. And he would actually even text me when he would solve a problem on his own and became really aware of that skill. But then I have other clients where, I see that need of starting at self-awareness, because each time I see them, the idea of these goals are just kind of forgotten. And so we have to connect it to why we're working on this skill, when they might see it, in what environments. And then just kind of that self-awareness of, oh yeah, that was really hard that one day to do this. And you see it click, but it's so important, because if they don't have that self-awareness, how are they ever going to achieve that skill that we're working on?
Right? How are they going to see the relevance of
Yeah.
that skill to their life? Other than the fact they know it's important to other people,
Yeah.
so they will perform it on command or when the situation triggers it, but they don't ever use it or generalize it because they don't see the purpose to it. No one has explained the relevance to them as a person. And if they don't see themselves as a person, they don't see the relevance of anything.
Yeah.
They're just drifting through life, uh, doing what anybody tells them to do. And then you wonder why 85% of autistic adults are unemployed and living at home.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's got to start with that strong sense of self. Here's what I want, and I'm willing to work, and this is what motivates me, and this is what I want in life. And
Mhm.
I'm going to go for it. There's got to be that element of motivation to make you even want to achieve a goal other than to please someone else.
Yeah. So, in thinking about an assessment form, and really like, no, you can't necessarily assess this through questions like you would the castle or the self or the I can't remember some of the OT assessments, which I know some of the OT assessments are kind of more observation for speech and language. Yes, we observe, but it's also very standardized. But when it comes to these assessments, it has to be observation. And, I'm even curious, like, I could see how there might be kids that maybe tried to develop a sense of self, but if it was never um observed, never not rewarded, but never like
Supported.
reinforced or supported, they probably just squashed it. And so they might not have that foundation because it wasn't supported by their environment or, and of course, not knowing, no one purposely tries to squash somebody's self-awareness, but with new education, we're this is why we're here trying to help this. Um, but what do you see as this need for the shift of more of an observation assessment versus like those traditional, just standardized tests?
And this is where the difference between a hard skill and a
Yeah.
soft skill.
Mm.
Hard skills are things that be concretely measured. How can you do this fine motor task? Yes or no? And it can be answered,
Mhm.
but yeah, testing it and you assess it and you measure, and it's based on age levels. There's certain skills that are acquired in a certain developmental sequence or at certain ages because of their growth and development,
Mhm.
i.e., children at age 2 are not expected to put a pencil in their hand and begin handwriting. They don't have the fine motor control or the of those muscles yet to be
Yeah.
able to do that. And yet people still think, oh, the earlier the better. And
Yeah.
all they end up doing is encouraging maladapted responses,
Yeah.
skills that have to be unlearned and relearned. So hard skills are things you can concretely see and measure, and usually they have a developmental component to it as to whether it's even relevant to their life yet, whether they have the ability to do so. Soft skills, though, are those social, cultural things that you can't really measure. You can observe them, but you can't concretely measure them. And this is why I think I have to put it into a form in which I trigger a situation. I say, present them with this, show them this, try this, and watch for the response. And then based on that response, they either show that they do understand the response you're trying to trigger. They do understand it. They know how to do it. So you're going to get an immediate response. But I have to remember that response may meet just their need, not yours. So you can't make the judgment. But if they're satisfied with the response they made because they know they understood it, they're satisfied, then that's a strength.
Yeah.
They've learned, they've got the concept, but they're meeting their needs, not necessarily yours. But either way, that's okay. But now a potential strength is they struggle with it. They're trying, they want to, they seem to know what they want to do, but they can't quite get there. Whereas a barrier means there's something getting in the way. They seem to know what they want to do, but they no. There's just they can't. I want to, but I can't. I don't have the motor coordination. I don't have the perception. I can't understand it. Those are barriers. Whereas triggers are simply that this situation is so stressful for me. I've been presented with it many times. I don't get it. I'm not ready for it. And it really has then turned into someone's asking me to do something I absolutely know I cannot do. I do not understand. And yet they're insisting I do it. It becomes an emotional trigger so that they become then upset. You're going to see whether it's a passive or active form of being upset or stressed, like starting to stim. And then there's the response of that they've never seen or heard of it before. They have no clue what you're talking about. And they just kind of sit there and look at you. They're just not ready at all.
Yeah.
Those are the categories that I've kind of selected to help you assess the response that you get as to how much do they have it or not have it. And I think you can use that then, this assessment form, like other assessment forms, to see progress. I.e., if you, through sufficient support, you get rid of those barriers, you're going to start to see now a beginning potential strength, or even eventually a strength. You get rid of, with the right supports, the emotional trigger part of it.
Yeah.
Now you're going to see growth toward a potential strength, which will eventually turn into a strength. And if they're developmentally not ready, you shouldn't be working on that goal at all.
Yeah.
I mean, just don't even bother, because all you're going to do is turn it into a trigger. So they're just saying, I'm not ready. It has nothing to do with how old they are, because for autistics, we don't follow the same developmental pattern that typical children do. So why are you comparing us to their development and coming up with us deficient, and then picking those deficiencies as goals?
Right. And
Those
like you,
deficiencies are saying, I'm not ready for it. I don't
yeah.
get it. I don't understand it.
And like you said, these are soft skills. It's not, do they know what, do they know what an airplane is versus, are they able to get their need met to get their water or food or whatever that they're needing. And so it's a completely kind of different set of skills, and which are skills, like you said, all of this kind of like that self-awareness, it starts in infancy. And so I love that idea, and I love the idea of scoring it against themselves versus others. And I actually saw this with our freebie, the My Communication Strengths and Differences. We had a student who said they were fine in every area. Good, good, good. I don't need any support. Now, the teachers and the parents and even the therapist observed some different things. And so we did develop some goals that she agreed with. We redid it this year, and this is where self-awareness comes in. She now has some skills where she's like, I feel good with this, but now she has other skills where she's like, I want to learn more. I don't want people to expect this of me. So it was fascinating, because we went from, she thought she was all good, to, no, I do need help. So it just showed the increase of self-awareness. Yeah, it was amazing. So I love that idea of observation. And as you mentioned, like, even though these are skills that may not explicitly jump out as communication or OT, when you really look at how it relates to our field, or even as teachers, like cognition, how does it relate to their learning? I feel like this provides such a wealth of information for writing goals, for providing supports, providing, any modifications or accommodations. And so I'm excited. So this is something we're working on. And we will probably send out some information to get some feedback as we work on this, but it's definitely something that's needed, because our traditional standardized tests just aren't cutting it anymore. So awesome. Well, thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Staci.